Well, hello friends, and welcome to another Ask Zach. Today we're going to do a Q&A, and it's, way long overdue. The show's called Ask Zach. You guys send in questions, and, you comment with questions and stuff, and I've, of course, a lot of those lead to episodes, but sometimes a lot of these questions just don't get, they get answered maybe in the comment section or maybe in an email, and so I'm going to start being better about doing these periodically, maybe even monthly, to really address these questions, kind of head on. So we're going to talk about everything from Princetons to the Ask Zach theme and the inspiration of Guthrie Trapp, and all sorts of stuff in between. Telecaster body thickness, which I got tons of comments on that, on the comparison between the 57 and the 67. So we're going to do all that. So, of course, if you've been watching the show and you've been enjoying it, you haven't subscribed yet, well, please go down in the corner, hit subscribe. If you've been watching for a while, I appreciate you supporting the show because that's what keeps the channel going. So there's tip jar information in the description. And then at AskZach.com, you can find merch like this amp schematic that's fun, or you can learn about Friends of Ask Zach for those that have already bought a t-shirt or what have you and want to continue to support the show. So I appreciate that. All right, let's just dive headlong into this with question number 1. So Russ C. asks, thoughts on Deluxe Reverb versus Princeton? Okay, so now some of this I hit upon in the video, where I talk about the Deluxe Reverb. And I know it's funny today I'm using my Vox AC10, but, it's nice to, kind of break it up some. So my deal with the Princeton is I love the sound of a Princeton. However, it just starts to cave in when I play on the low end, when I play on the low strings, just start twanging and stuff and start playing low string licks. And for some guys like Jim Campolongo and others, they love that sound and they use it to their advantage. I've always had a hard time with it. So yes, I do like a Princeton better that has a 12 in it, or it has a more efficient speaker. My favorite 10, besides like the original brown and gold Jensen C10NS or C10P or whatever it is Celestion makes a 10-inch greenback speaker, and I think that's a really great speaker in that. And then, of course, if you run up to a 12, of course, you got to change the baffle out, but you can do a lot of great things there too. However, I just think the bigger cab size of the Deluxe, a little bit more power, bigger iron, more advanced phase inverter, design. I think it just, it's much more, gig friendly for sure, unless you just want to be overdriven. Now, and again, this also has to do with the Tele and me being a Telecaster guy. I mean, you may be like, the Princeton's the best thing ever and it's great, and that's fantastic. So just enjoy. So that's my deal with the Princeton Reverb versus the Deluxe. Nick F says, do round core strings bend easier than hex? Well, they can. It all depends on, because of course we're only talking about wound strings here, because when you're talking about round core versus hex core, you're only talking about the wound strings, because these are, no matter what, whether it's pure nickel or not, or round core, or whatever, the plain strings are the same. It's the wound strings that are different. So where the big difference comes in is actually the thickness of the core. So yes, there's some difference between hex and round core, but the bigger difference is how big the inner core string is. So the bigger the inner core string, the more difficult it is to bend and the stiffer it feels. So some guys will make pure nickel round core strings where the round core in the middle is smaller, and that will be easier to bend. Okay. Oh, let's see. So please review the Mustang Micro. You know, the Mustang Micro is a really cool headphone amp. It sounds great. I'm not going to do a full-blown episode on it. I've recommended it twice. It sounds good. It it really sounds good with headphones on. It sounds good when you're playing along with tracks. Your guitar kind of sounds like it belongs on the recording. I mean, I think they did a really great job on that, but I'm not going to do a full video on that. Okay. Does the blonde Tonemaster sound closer or further from your Blackface Deluxe? I think what he's referring to is comparing it to the Blackface Tonemaster and the blonde Tonemaster, which sounds closer to my original Deluxe reverb, and I would say the blonde Tonemaster by far. I think the fact that they've modeled it without the bright cap and they put a Celestion Neo speaker in it, it sounds a lot closer. And to me, the blonde Tonemaster is a great amp, and I kept it, so I still have it, and I use it out and about. And actually, a friend is gigging with it right now that I let a friend borrow it so that he could decide whether he wanted to buy one or not. I think he's going to pick one up. So there you have it on the Tonemaster. Okay, here's a big one. I got so many questions about Telecaster body thickness, because in the comparison video between this and this, guys saw the video and they thought that this guitar looked thicker than this one. Well, they're the same thickness. I mean, I took all sorts of measurements and there's very little difference. The bodies are basically 1 3/4 inches, thick. They have all sorts of the same measurements. Where they really differ is headstock thickness, and that's something I referred to in the video. I think it must be a optical illusion, the fact that this kind of yellowed finish with the where it's kind of looking white on the edges or something, and this with the it just made it look like this one was thicker, and it's not. All right, so that was a big one. I got into some trouble with some guys when I said the backwards F. Here, let me grab this again. So I call this the backwards F on the neck plate. It's not. It's a cursive F, but people started using that term, and I just kind of clued into it and started using the same terminology. No, it is a stylized cursive F that doesn't come around again at the bottom. So there you have it. Please do an episode on blank. So I get lots and lots of requests to do an episode on, a certain guitar player or a certain piece of gear and such. And know that, I can't do an episode on everything. There are some guys that I just haven't gotten to yet. And also you have to realize that there's a certain amount of research and work that goes into doing an episode like on a player. So if I'm doing an episode on player, well, I need to work up some of their licks. I need to make sure I have the facts straight on their history. I need to do real research, and I need to take good notes. And even though I don't script episodes, it's like still, I need to make sure that I'm not putting out false information. So, continue to send in those ideas and those requests, and know that, I plan on continuing to do this show, for a while, and I will, continue to mark off those players and some pieces of gear and things like that. Know that every once in a while I'll spotlight a piece of gear, but that is not a huge priority for me. I do like to look at gear. I love gear just as much as anyone else does, but also I want to keep it about the guitar and playing, and about the history of players and such. And hopefully the gear is something that we love, but it's still seen as a tool, not just the end goal gear. All right. Then let's see. I get a lot of questions about buying a Tele, and about advice on that, and especially buying a Tele under $1,000. And frankly, the best way to get a good Telecaster is play as many as you can get your hands on. And so I know that can be difficult depending on where you are and the circumstances that you're in and depending on the condition of the world. But, really, and hopefully, if you get something at a decent price and if you end up not liking it, well, hopefully you can flip it. But I like, even if it's not, a vintage Tele, I would tell anyone out there, well, go find a road worn, Tele, especially one that's like under 8 pounds. I think those are great under $1,000 guitars. Tokais, made in Japan Teles. There's all sorts of things. When you start getting up into more expensive, guitars, there's just so much more, opportunity for, I don't want to say being taken advantage of, but you just have to be so much more careful when you're talking about vintage stuff and knowing, being able to identify stuff that's original and that's not and things like that. So, as far as, buying a Tele, play as many as you can and take notes on the things that you like, because you're going to find out, oh, I like certain neck shapes, or I like little tiny vintage frets, or I hate vintage frets. I kind of tend to like guitars that have ash bodies or alder, but just, just kind of try to take notes of things that you like and, try to find a guitar that you can't live without. And hopefully it's because it plays great, and really inspires you to play, not just because it looks cool. Because I have a lot of guys email me and they've bought a guitar that they thought looked really cool, and then it arrives and they hate the way it plays, and then they start trying to modify it and things like that. So, that's problematic. All right. Also wanted to hit on Guthrie Trapp. And the reason I want to talk about him is that with the Ask Zach theme, the more and more that I've heard Guthrie do some different lessons and things that he's done in his videos, I realized that like the Ask Zach theme, yes, it was an exercise to help myself with having a hand pain, and it was something that would make me use my pinky and it make me stretch a little bit more. And the tab for that is actually on AskZach.com. You can find it in the articles section. There's a tab on that, and there's a clip of me, playing it and such. But I came to realize that I was inspired by a clip of Guthrie Trapp. And also, I just want to give kind of a tip of the hat to Guthrie, because he's inspired me to be more intentional about my soloing, so that when I solo, you can really tell what chord is going on in the background. And I knew I was on the right track when, a couple months ago, I was at Danocaster's at Dan Strain's house, and I was playing guitar, and Dan said, I can tell what chords you're playing over, the way you're playing. And it's because I was playing chord tones. I'm playing all sorts of passing notes. And that came from, I did the Artist Works program with Guthrie, and it was, I did that a couple of years ago. And, then I watched his videos and really enjoy them. But it was that it really started to rub off, and I started realizing that that's what I like in all sorts of other players playing, is that even if they don't have anything, a backing track or anything going on, it's like you can hear, where the song is going. There's voice leading involved. There's, he's playing chord tones. And so like the intro that I played today, I was playing in a way where hopefully you would hear, oh, he's playing over the 1 chord, he's playing over the 4 chord, he's playing over the 5. Hopefully you would hear that. And that's what I strive for in my playing all the time now. And so I always want people to be able to tell, because then they can hear that this is intentional. It's not just me playing a bunch of notes. And when you do it enough, it starts to become kind of second nature, and it starts coming naturally, and you're not having to think about it as much. And that's what you want in music, to where you just, where it just happens. You're not thinking about it. So, Guthrie's I've learned a lot from his videos, and he's a great player, and so thanks to Guthrie. Thanks for the inspiration, and yeah. Another thing, of course, I had on a recent video, I had a black pickguard on this guitar, and I switched it back to the white. I liked the black, and it was good contrast, but it's just that, this is a 57 Tele. It's supposed to have a white guard, and so, so I'm back to the white guard for now. Part of it has to do with the fact that there's this thing about black guards, and the guys that collect black guards, and they kind of, not all of them, but kind of they have this feeling like, Telecasters begin and end with the black guard, and it gets a little wacky. And I love black guards, but frankly, I think I prefer this era of guitar. Of course, if someone gave me a black guard, I'd be happy to play it. But yeah, so for now, it's got the white guard on there. This is kind of time sensitive, and in that I'm supposed to be playing a couple of shows in Tulsa. So September 24th and 25th of 2021, I'm scheduled to go play some shows with my friend Paul Bogart. That he's a guy that I played gigs with before my kids were born. I've known him for a long time, and I'm going to be filling in for his regular guitar player, Nick Palmer, that teaches at Belmont University. So I'm having to relearn a bunch of material and learn a bunch of new material too. And that's been a lot of fun. It's really good to have to learn new material and exercise this muscle called your brain. So if anyone is living in the Tulsa area and would want to come out to the show and maybe maybe talk, hang out some, send me an email. So I'm going to be playing at some casinos. I think the Hard Rock and maybe another one. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Hope you've had fun, and we can start having some regular question and answer episodes where I address a bunch of this stuff that kind of falls through the cracks in the comment section or in emails to individuals. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Bye-bye.